everyone, it's Niveen. Today is Monday. Happy Monday. It's about 12:35, and I guess good afternoon to all of you. Uh, Today is Monday. It's a beautiful weather here in Southern California, and today we're gonna talk about how to sell your home in steps. I'm gonna take all the Q&A all the way at the end, so bear with me. But if you are also buying a home, I want you to watch this video as well, because we're gonna touch base on how do we accept offers. So accept offers is part of selling the house, right? So how to sell your home, the seller has to accept offers. So on what basis do we accept the offers, right? All right, so before we get started, if this is the first time you see any of my videos, you watch any of my videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And there are a lot of selling and buying tips, so you can go ahead and browse all the videos. And another thing I just want to mention before we get started is that I have a promotion for the month of June, until the end of June, for selling your home. It's 4% total commission for both parties, all right? So definitely you don't want to miss out on this promotion. All right, so let's get started. So the first step in selling your home is, number one, choosing the right agent. And I can't stress this enough, choosing the right agent. So what are you looking for in a good agent? A couple of things. Number one, communication. You want very high communication with this agent. You want a good communication with this agent. You want to text them and this agent replies back to you. You want to pick up the phone and call them and call the agent, and you find the agent there, right? One of the things that we do as our marketing strategy is we call expires listing. So when somebody has a home that doesn't get sold, then it becomes expired. So we call these expired listings, and we try to understand why the house didn't sell, and we try to offer our service to see if we can help them sell it, right? So one of the things they tell us that the agent was not in communication with the seller. The agent didn't communicate with the seller. So the seller would, would text, would call, and there's no response. So this is one of the things, very important thing. And the second is, of course, the agent has to be trustworthy. We, as agents, have something we call fiduciary duty. So a fiduciary duty, I know it's a big word, don't worry about it, but what it means is that I have a duty towards my client, whether that client is a seller or a buyer. I have a duty towards my client. And in that duty, I have to favor my client over me. So it's really critical to have a trustworthy agent that will help you throughout the process, will explain everything to you, will just go through the process with you one by one, all right? Another thing I want to mention that I probably don't mention enough is working with really a great company such as Coldwell Banker. And I can't stress enough Coldwell Banker as, first of all, Coldwell Banker is a global company. And the second thing is that it's been around for 115 years. We are the number one company that has the highest sales, and the only company or the highest company in searching online. So when people search online, they search for Coldwell Banker. So, and another thing about Coldwell Banker, which I'm going to talk about at the end, is that when I talk about my marketing techniques, is technology is a technology-based company. On what way, I'll explain, and this is going to blow your mind away. So stick with me, stay around with me, and we'll go through that one by one. All right, so this is the first thing, to choose the right agent. Now what? After choosing the agent, usually when I get somebody that would like to sell their home, I prepare something called a listing presentation. And a listing presentation for us as agents is a huge big thing, right? So in a listing presentation, I prepare a lot of things. I prepare my background, first of all. I prepare the property details, all the information about the property. I give the client the comps in the area, what was sold, what's coming soon, what's active in the market, and then I come up with an estimated price, an estimated selling price. Guys, it's just an estimation, right? Because I'm not an appraiser. So this is just an estimation, but a good agent will give you a range, a good range. And I would highly recommend for you as a seller to listen to the agent's recommendation. It's up to the seller to finally decide on what price they want to list the house for, okay? So I give the listing presentation, and in my listing presentation, I go through the marketing techniques, and that's why I said I'm gonna explain what we do at our end as agents from Coldwell Banker to market the house. So one of the things we do is that, of course, there are offline marketing and online marketing, and there are lots of different things. The first thing we do is called MLS. So MLS is our database, and when we get a listing, we simply put that on MLS, which allows it's called multiple listing services, and we as agents are the only one allowed to see this MLS. We have access to it, okay? So MLS allows other agents to see this property. That's why if you are selling your home by yourself, you don't have access to MLS. And this is how mostly, I want to say like 99% of the time, houses get sold on MLS, okay? This is one thing. And then of course we go through all the online marketing techniques that we do and the offline marketing techniques, such as open houses, giving flyers to the neighbors, a lot of offline marketing techniques that we do, all right? But one of the things I wanted to mention, and I said we are a technology-based company, is that I, as an agent, as a Coldwell Banker agent, have the right or have the access. I know how to find your buyer. Say, for example, that you live in Riverside, and I have the ability to know where your buyer's coming from. Your buyer might be coming from, I don't know, could be like Barstow. It could be like the Valley. It could be somewhere else. Like we don't know where it's at. I haven't checked Riverside, but I have the ability to know that there's an online platform that allows us as agents to know where the buyers are coming from for a specific area. Not only that, it tells me their demographics. It gives me the social standard. It gives me their financial standard. It gives me a ton of information about this buyer, about the people that want to buy your house or houses in your area, okay? That's one thing. So then the question is, how do we reach them? Okay, now I know your buyer. I know he's coming from X city. Now what? Well, this is the second marketing technique that I will use, and I'm not gonna, basically expose all my marketing arsenal here, but there's another platform that I use which allows me to target this specific buyer in this specific area so they can see your house. Of course, this is all paid, okay? So do we always use that? Do we always use that in every listing that we get? No, because some listings are easy to sell and some are really hard to sell. So when it's really hard to sell, this is one of the things that we can do to get you a good buyer, all right? And then we list the house, but before we list the house, let me just stop here. I was just explaining to you that one of the things that I do in my listing presentations, that I go through all these things with the seller, and I explain the marketing techniques, and I explain to him even this is called an iBuyer program. I explain all that to him and everything, right? And then we go into the listing agreement. So the listing agreement, I went through the listing agreement before in details, but the listing agreement basically is we have all the information about the property, right? And then we decide on the term, the listing term. Basically, it means your contract with the company, how long you want to have this contract between us. It differs according to the property. So say, for example, you're selling a commercial building. Usually commercial buildings, we can take the listing for 2 years. Does that mean it's going to sell in 2 years? Absolutely not. But, we would like to have proper time, enough time. Usually houses, regular houses, residential houses, they take about 6 months. Lots, they take also maybe a year to 2 years. Okay, it depends. Where is the lot and the condition of it and everything else. So this is the one of the things that's mentioned in the listing agreement. Another thing mentioned in the listing agreement is the commission. How much commission is going to be paid for both parties, the listing agent or the listing broker, and the buyer's broker, because the seller gets to pay both, right? So after that, and of course, the seller has to agree that the property will be listed on the MLS that I talked about, right? It's our online platform. Then after that, we prep the house. So number 3, but number 1 is choosing the agent. Number 2 is the listing agreement, the listing presentation and agreement. And number 3 is prepping the house. So what does it take to prep your house, and what does that mean? Preparing your house for showings, meaning that I want your house to be ready to show. And before we do the showing, what do? Take professional pictures. Who pays for that? Me. It's part of my expenses. As an agent, I do that. So once you choose the agent becomes part of your team, right? We become one team. It's for my benefit to sell your home and to get you whatever home that you want. We become one, right? So then I prep your house for professional pictures. What do we do in preparing the home? Declutter. Declutter. I always tell my sellers, clients, declutter. Clean and declutter as much as possible. One thing also I want to mention, remove any personal belongings, any ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, any backgrounds that you have in the house. It's highly recommended to remove it, all right? Just give the buyer a chance to see the house as is, to imagine the house. Because one of the things that the buyers do once they step into the house is to look at the house and decide, say for example, this is a living room, you know, they can say, oh, we're gonna put the couch here, we're gonna put the TV here. It allows them to do that. So give them a chance to imagine the house without all this stuff. And sometimes when you go into, you know, cluttered, busy house with full of furniture, I tell my clients, I tell my buyers, if I'm representing the buyers, I tell them, imagine the house without anything. Just, I want you to have this, you know, imagination that just nothing in there, okay? Just space. So this is one of the things that I always tell my sellers: declutter, clean, remove personal belongings, and curb appeal. So curb appeal is really, really important. One thing that you don't know about buyers, that once they see the house from the outside, sometimes they just make a complete U-turn and go back. They decide not to continue because the house doesn't look nice from the outside. So if you have, like, for example, the hose is out there, you know, kids' bicycles, the grass is dead, a lot of things like this, you know, this is not curb appeal. So it doesn't attract the buyer. So make the house from the outside looks clean, looks nice. You don't have to upgrade anything in the house. I mean, of course, upgraded houses will be sold faster. I can't deny that. So in any market, they will always sell faster and for higher price, but you don't have to do that, right? You can just do basic stuff. And this is a time it allows you as a seller to walk through the house and have an eye with your agent. I mean, as an outsider, as an agent, the first thing when I step into the house in my listing presentation, I go through the house. I have a look at it and I have an eye. I know what needs to be fixed. So it could be minor things, really, really small things that you need to touch on that will help you sell the house faster. Okay, so I do that. And then we decide a day on the professional pictures. Then we take the pictures. Then I upload it to MLS. And then we start the marketing the house. Okay. Now, when we get the offers, in what way do we choose offers? Like, what are the things that we look at? Is always the highest offer the best offer? No, not always. Why? It depends on two things. First of all, it depends if it's a cash offer or a finance offer, if it's a loan offer, right? And the second thing, it depends on the condition of the situation of the seller. So there are some contingencies in the offer that as a listing agent, and I tell my seller we need to look at. So say, for example, that the seller is looking to move really quickly. He wants to cash out for any reason. Or selling his house is contingent upon him finding a replacement property, and he needs to sell this house because he needs the down payment, the equity from this house, to take it as a down payment and put it in the new house. So if he gets a cash offer, a full price cash offer, for example, and above asking price finance offer, which one do you think he's gonna accept? It's a cash offer. But why? Because at the end of the day, you as a seller, you're gonna get your money, whether it's from the lender or from the buyer from the cash offer. So by all means, you're gonna get the money. The difference is time. So in cash offers, we can close in 7 days. We can close in 10 days. We really can close fast because there is no appraisal. There's no underwriting, and we're gonna go through that, where there's no nothing, it's really simple, it's easy. So close of escrow is done really quickly. It's done in a week, in 2 weeks, in 10 days, we're done quickly, right? But in a finance offer, then it takes about a month. So, so this is one thing. That's why I'm saying it depends on the seller's situation. Each seller has his own situation, has his own criteria, and we choose upon it. So not always the highest offer, the best offer. Another thing is that if it's a high offer, but the buyer is not willing to pay for the appraisal gap and the seller wants to remove the appraisal contingency, then I have to look for the offer that the buyer is willing to do that. Let me explain. I think I explained the contingencies before when I was speaking about writing an offer. So the contingency is basically a condition that it protects the buyer. And I always, if I'm representing the buyer on the other side, I always tell my buyers, do not remove contingencies, right? But if I'm representing a seller, it depends on what the seller wants. So one of the things is that I say that the seller looks at is the contingencies. There are 3 major contingencies: inspection contingency, appraisal contingency, and loan contingency. So the inspection contingency, meaning that the buyer has a right to inspect the house, get a proper inspector, inspection company, home inspection, and they inspect the house. Depending on the report and the results, then he decides if he wants to move forward or not. If he waives his right in that contingency, that means he's telling the seller that I don't care about the condition of the house. I'm gonna buy it anyways. Okay, so even if the house is falling apart, I'm gonna buy it anyways. This is one of the big no's that I always tell my clients, specifically when it comes to inspection. It's a good idea to do the inspection. Definitely, to me, it's a must, right? The second contingency is the appraisal contingency, and this is what I'm going to talk about. Last year and the past 2 years, honestly, it was a crazy seller's market. We all agree on that, right? So a lot of the sellers waive the appraisal contingency because that means that the appraised value, here's the situation. So say, for example, you listed your house for whatever, 800, and you have an offer for 800,000, okay? Then the appraised value comes in higher than that. Is there a problem? No, we're all good. We're all happy. Why? Because the bank, the lender, is gonna finance, will finance the buyer. The lender has a problem when the appraised value comes in lower than the offer price, because this gap between, say, for example, the appraised value comes in at 780, but your offer is at 800, so there's 20,000 difference. Now what? Who's gonna pay that? The lender? No. The lender will tell you, why? Why would I give you a higher loan for a house that is only worth 780? You wrote an offer at 800. It's up to you. You want to pay the difference, up to you. So in this situation, we have 4 scenarios. So the first one, either the seller comes down with the offer and he accepts the 780, or the buyer pays a difference. That's why I was saying this is called an appraisal gap. So some of the sellers, specifically last year, they were always requesting for the buyers to waive the appraisal contingency, meaning that whatever price that's gonna come, if it's lower than the purchase price, then you as a buyer is obligated to pay the difference, okay? And there were a lot of cash buyers also. I'm gonna speak about cash buyers now in a second. The third scenario is they both come in terms. Like, say, for example, the seller lowers the price 10,000, the buyer increases the price 10,000, so then they agree. Fine, good. Or it falls out of escrow, okay? So this is the last option that we have. So this is the second contingency. The third contingency is loan approval. So the loan approval, basically, there's something called underwriter. So underwriter that's a title, that's somebody, okay? That's his job. So he basically, he does all the paperwork, all the documents. He looks at everything for the buyer during the escrow time. So once we open escrow, usually it's 30 days, and usually the loan contingency is about 21 days. He looks at everything, okay? And then he decides if this buyer is qualified to buy the house. I know that you as a buyer probably have done because you have to to have a pre-approval in order to submit an offer. But this is different. This is an underwriter who will ask for all the documents, and that's why, hence, the relationship between the lender and the underwriter is critical. It's really important to have a good lender that you work with. That's why I always recommend a lender, our in-house lender. Not that it matters to me. I mean, as an agent, all what I want is a pre-approval letter. It doesn't matter to me. However, it's really important because then I have a relationship. I work with them. I know, like, I can be like on top of them, right? Really quickly. And I worked with them great in previous deals. So it depends on the seller. If the seller is asking me as an agent to look for offers that only offer a buyer that is looking to remove or waive the appraisal contingency, then this is a condition, right? So that means that not always the highest offer, the best offer. So as a buyer, if you are a buyer and watching, you need to understand there's something called contingencies. So these are the things that the seller looks at, and this is how we make our decision in choosing the offer. Let me explain about the difference between a cash offer and a finance offer. The cash offer doesn't have appraisal, usually, unless the buyer wants to appraise the house, but there is no lender. So why would we appraise the house? There's no lender, okay? The second thing, it doesn't have a loan contingency, so we're not gonna wait 3 weeks. That's why I said the only thing we're waiting for is ordering the prelim and disclosures, seller's disclosures, home inspection. These are the only major 3 things that we look at in a cash offer. That's why we finish in about a week, 10 days, and we're done. So this is when it comes to cash offers. A finance offer, we have to go through all that. But again, you as a seller, it depends on your situation. What are you planning to do? Some of them are really want to finish quickly and leave out of state, cash out, and they have plans. Some of them have contingencies to find another placement property and they need a down payment. Whatever it is your situation. So that's why I'm saying it's not a cookie cutter for everyone. Definitely, it's different. All right, so after we accept the offer, then we open escrow. As I said, usually, escrow is about, and I'm talking about a finance offer here, right? A regular loan offer. Usually it takes about 30 days. And I went through that while I was talking about the contingencies. There are 3 contingencies that we go through. The inspection contingency, where the buyer gets a home inspection company and they inspect the home. Okay, what if the home have things that need to be fixed? Well, first of all, what does the home inspector look for? What do they look for? They look for major things in the house. So they look for the foundation, the roof, plumbing, electric system, and I think the last thing is walls. So there are 5 major systems that they look at, okay? And of course, there are some cosmetic things that need to be fixed, like this, I don't know, plug is not grounded or whatever, some other things in the house. That they look at everything. So they give you a hefty report. This report has a summary page. So in this summary page, everything is highlighted for you. Now, here's the decision that you have to make as a buyer. It's really important for you to have a look at it and decide what you want to ask the seller to sell. Now, you as a seller, are you obligated to fix anything? So the buyer's agent can submit something called request for repairs. As a seller and as the listing agent, I'm telling you as a seller, the seller is not obligated even to respond to the request of repairs. Is not obligated even to respond to it. You have the right, not even to say, no, I'm not gonna do it, not even to respond, okay? So this is one thing. But of course, a good listing agent and a good seller, a motivated seller, always wants to make things work, okay? Let me go back a little bit to the accepting offers. One of the things that as a listing agent, I always do with my sellers, I cross-qualify any buyer with my lender. So this is one of the good things that I like to do as a service to my client. I would like to take the client that we chose out of, we have 5 offers, okay? We chose 2 offers, for example, they are the best, and we're just gonna take them to cross-qualify with my lender to make sure that all the paperwork is good and they are good clients and it's gonna go smooth and good, all right? So this is one of the things that I do to ensure that the transaction will be smooth and everything will be fine. So I just went back a little bit. Okay, now let's go back to the home inspection. So we did the home inspection and things need to be repaired. And I said the buyer's agent can do something called request for repairs. The lender doesn't like to see requests for repairs. Doesn't like to see that form. Why? Because to the lender, it means that there's something wrong with the house. Why would he finance a house that is, something is wrong with it? So the lenders do not like to see requests for, so now what? What's the solution? So the solution is that the seller can pay the buyer something called seller's concessions, meaning that they can pay their closing costs. So this is one thing, they can pay them their closing costs. Now, say for example, the closing cost is, I don't know, let's say like 10,000, just a number, right? But the seller agreed to give the buyer 15,000 back in credit. Where does this 5,000, how do we handle this 5,000? You know, we can lower the purchase price. This is one thing. We can lower the purchase price for this 5,000, for example. So that's why, again, the buyer's agent need to work closely with the lender to make sure how much closing costs they have, so how much they can ask for seller's concessions, because they can ask the seller to pay for, you know, the closing costs. So when the seller pays, this is not money back to the buyer. So the seller is not paying you back in dollar amount. They're not paying you back. No, they're just paying your closing costs. Basically, they're saving you the closing cost expense, okay? So they are paying it for you. This is one of the ways that we do. But however, again, as I said, the seller is not obligated. That's why I always, if I'm representing the buyers, I always tell them it's a wish list. It's nothing but a wish list. But I mean, two good agents with two good negotiation skills, this is where it starts. And a good buyer and a good seller motivated both of them to work things around, then we work things around, okay? So we passed the inspection. First check mark, done. Then we go into the appraisal contingency. So then the lender sends the appraiser to appraise the property. And as I said, it depends on the value. If the value is above the purchase price, we're all good. If it's lower, then we have these four scenarios that I mentioned, okay? Appraisal is fine, is above, or is worked out, check mark, done. Then we go into the third contingency, which is the loan contingency. As I said, there is an underwriter. An underwriter, he basically looks at all the documents of the buyer, and if there's anything missing, then he asks the lender to get it from the buyer, okay? Once the appraisal, once the loan contingency, once the loan process is done, and we get something called clearance. So this clearance day is really, really, really important for us. I mean, hallelujah, we're almost there, we're done. It's you know, it's a beautiful day for us. Everyone is so happy because we passed the three hurdles: the inspection, home inspection, the appraisal, and the loan contingency. Once we get clearance, then we are good to close. So when we close, what happens is that the lender funds. This is the funding day. So funding meaning dispersing the money. So dispersing, giving the seller their money, paying the escrow department their money, paying the commissions to both parties, to both brokerage firms. This is called dispersing the money. So that's what the lender does. This is the funding part. So they fund and we close. And of course, title, they record the deed. So they record the deed. So funding and recording can be, sometimes it's in the same day, sometimes recording can happen next day. So it depends. But usually we have the funding and recording and voila, it's done. And after that, the seller would hand the keys to the buyer. And basically not handed, I mean, not handed, really handed. I mean, the buyer would pick it up either from their agent, you know, if they have a buyer's agent, of course, the buyer's agent can pick it up from the listing agent, or actually the buyer can pick it up from the listing agent, whatever, like we arrange for it, okay? So that's it, okay, and the house is sold. These are the major steps in selling your home, and of course, One of the things that I talked about in details before is seller's disclosures. So in this 30 days, the close of escrow, we have something called seller's disclosures. Who hands you as a seller these disclosures? Your agent. Your agent will hand you all the seller's disclosures in which he goes through them and you sign everything. Again, and I mentioned that before, as an agent, we are not allowed, we don't have the capacity to explain everything legally to the client. So if you have questions about disclosures, about contract, about any of these things, then you need to ask a real estate attorney, okay? And I went through the TDS form and the SPQ form. They were in the live videos. If you haven't watched them, they came in two parts. Really, really important to watch these two videos because these are almost the most important disclosures that you as a seller will fill out and will sign. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you watch these couple of videos about the TDS and the SPQ. I explain things about the TDS and SPQ to my sellers and I walk them through things, and it's simple. It's really simple to fill out, but you have to fill it out as a seller. And then it's signed and then it's given to the buyer. And that's about it, you know. So it depends. If the offer is finance offer, you are getting a finance offer, 30 days. If it's a cash offer, it's a lot easier. And I explained there's basically no difference except mainly for time frame. That's the main thing. Some of the sellers, they demand cash buyers, and it doesn't really make, I try to explain to them, it doesn't really make a huge big difference. I mean, they always say cash is king. And another thing is that they are trying to eliminate the fact that they're gonna go through the loan contingency because, you know, the buyer can fall out of the qualification. We understand that. That's why if you are cross-qualify them with with my lender, if I do that prior to going into escrow, then at least that gives me, you know, a cushion. It gives me a relief that this buyer is good. But of course, you know, if you want things fast, then a cash offer will do it. So these are the steps, and as I said, they are pretty simple. They are not that difficult. I don't see any questions. Does anyone have any question? I will put the links for the TDS and the SPQ videos below this video. So if you haven't watched them, again, I highly recommend that you do. And let me just refresh my feed here so I can see if there is any new questions coming in. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I guess I did good, right? All right, so I would like to thank you all so much for watching. And if you have any questions, you can write it down in the comments. I will respond to it. And again, if you know anyone that is looking to sell until the end of June, they will get, of course, the promotion that I have, which is the 4%. But if you know anyone that would like to sell or buy, you can always reach me at my number below this video. It's 909-631-5301. Again, I am located in California. I'm licensed in California. I'm in Southern California specifically. So I work in the 4 major counties. I work in LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties. So I work in 4 major counties. But if you are outside of the state and you would like some to be referred to an agent, let me know. I'll be happy to do that for you. I have a huge big network. I mean, Coldwell Banker has a huge big network, and I can definitely refer you to somebody that can help you buy or sell in the state that you're looking for. And that's about it. So I would like to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Bye for now.